Welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, July 24th, 2014. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. There is said to be a need to include more men in the discussion of violence against women, as they are said to be the main perpetrators of these crimes. Minister of Gender Affairs Frederick Stevenson stressed at this point while speaking at the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which opened on Wednesday. Stevenson says if the men are not involved in the discussion, there will always be violence against women.
Because there are some men who stick to the belief of long ago, and some women too, that if the man doesn't hit them, they don't love them. But those things, we have to engender changes in our men and boys, and we have to involve them at the highest level in our consultations and in every other areas of life that we do.
Stevenson says the consultation highlights the role that all stakeholders can play in the fight against violence against women.
From developing projects to providing direct social support to our citizens and embracing the principles of corporate social responsibility. Let us acknowledge the efforts of our women of the world, and more importantly here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who are working every day to build a better and brighter future for themselves, their families, and the society.
Meanwhile, violence against women cannot be curbed if the cases are not reported. Minister of Gender Affairs Frederick Stevenson says this continues to occur and it is posing a serious problem in the country.
There is a procedure that we know if an act is committed against you, you first have to make a report to the police. The police would do their necessary investigations, and once the evidence is there, the matter goes to court. But if the victim does not turn up on hearing day, all that the police and the other persons, whether in the Family Affairs Division, would have done, would have come to naught if persons don't go to court and give the evidence.
Proper data collection is said to be one of the major hindrances in properly addressing the issue of violence against women in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Consultants to the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence in SVG, Dr. Halima Deshang, on Wednesday explained that during the course of the consultation, much focus will be placed on the importance of proper data collection. Deshang further explained that steps have already been taken to retrieve and obtain critical information in some of the crimes committed.
What would have happened a couple years ago, I think in 2001, a baseline study was completed by consultant Gayatri Pagas on sexual violence and some of the legal and law enforcement gaps. And as a consequence of that, I was then able to use that, as well as documents provided by Gender Affairs, discussions with police officers, and general other reports. Like I think St. Vincent earlier this year or earlier last year completed the CEDA report, CEDA, the Committee on the Elimination of various forms of discrimination against women, and as part of that they collected a number of data sets. Notwithstanding the availability of this material, there are obvious gaps. So I'm really happy to see that the government has taken initiative to address the legislative gaps, to address the gaps in data collection.
Deshang says she is encouraged by the number of community activists and faith-based organizations that have shown their commitment to the consultation and the way forward.
I think is really difficult when you consider that in such a small country the levels of violence are so high. That, you know, the police have so many reports, particularly of rape against adult women and statutory rape against both girls and boys. So when we think about, for instance, initiatives coming out of the Gender Affairs Division, like addressing teenage pregnancy, it tells you that some things are happening with our school-age girls that we really need to think about, and that the kind of changes we're asking for at all levels of society.
Pastor Fidel Taylor is of the view that the church and the state may need to put their differences aside and work together towards a common good in an effort to curb the current crime situation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Pastor Taylor made a comment last Sunday on Hits Talk, which featured a discussion on the current crime situation in the country.
The society is responsible for the cultivation and creation of opportunities for our children and to use alcohol and illegal drugs, resulting in dysfunctional homes, dysfunctional communities, and crimes against humanity. The time has come for the church and the state to work together to address the problems before things get worse. The root cause or causes of criminal behavior and crime in any nation, or the root causes of criminal behavior and crime in a nation is as a result of moral and spiritual degradation of the society. When people move away from God, they're opening the door and they're opening the floodgate for evil to come into their lives and their homes and into our society. The solutions to these problems lies with the powers of both the church and the state, and the time has come for both parties to put our differences aside, put politics aside, put religion aside, and put our country first, and come together to offer solution to this growing problem in our country and stamp it out before it is too late.
Pastor Taylor further states that in order to be effective in dealing with crime, it is important to firstly find out what are some of the causes of the crimes.
I do not have all the answers, but I think we have to come together to do our research, to do our study. For sure, as I said earlier on, I can put my finger on drugs. You know, if we create an opportunity, if we create a demand for something, people are going to gravitate towards it.
Anglican Bishop of the Windward Islands, the Right Reverend Leopold Friday, has spoken out on the events which occurred last Saturday at the funeral of former talk show host Eduardo E.G. Lynch, stating that what transpired was a manifestation of the political divide which currently exists in the country. Friday, by way of a release, states that this was not the time to blame or point fingers. He says what took place can be a catalyst for reconciliation and restoration. Since the event, persons have stated various opinions, including that the Reverend Ulrich Jones or the leader of the opposition, Annie Musis, should have attempted to quiet the crowd, and that the Prime Minister, Dr. Rav Gonsalves, should not have attended the funeral altogether. Coming up, St. Vincent and the Grenadines could soon see the first prosecution here for illegal dumping. More stories on the local scene when SVG-TV News continues. Don't go away. Welcome back. The Central Water and Sewerage Authority is confident that it will soon see the first person here prosecuted for illegal dumping. Collection Superintendent Craig Francois, in an interview with SVG-TV News earlier today, indicated that in June they cleaned up a specific area in Edinburgh and some 240 sacks of garbage plus 5.5 large metal bins filled with garbage were removed. Francois says now that they have returned to the site, an individual has decided to dump illegally once more in the same spot. He says they were informed of the individual responsible for dumping, and the Solid Waste Management Unit is now in discussions with the police to have the individual prosecuted.
And we have the name of the owner of the truck and the driver. and we have made a report to the police because on the Litter Act, the police was charged with the enforcement of the Litter Act and the prosecution of offences. So that has been done, and we are hoping that there will be a good outcome, which is that somebody is prosecuted for this reckless type of behavior, and it will be a learning experience for the rest of us, the greater part of the population of St. Vincent.
Francois says they are confident there will be positive results and make an example of this particular individual.
Recently, we had meetings with the police and solid waste, and all parties agree that we need to work together to make sure that the laws are enforced. And I am very optimistic that this time things will happen, because they just cannot continue as they were in the past. I mean, something has to happen, otherwise this country is going to become just one big dump heap, and we have to put a stop to that. And I believe that part of the process of education is prosecution.
Meantime, CWSA's Public Relations Officer, Joan Ryan, says they are planning to be tougher on the crime of illegal dumping.
We want to ensure that people understand it is illegal, and not only that, it is unhealthy, and it can cost our country, our government, far more money in the long run for management of waste, for health and well-being than it is costing us now. So that is why we are working alongside the police, even closer now, to ensure that persons are, convicted if found guilty of illegal dumping.
A seminar geared at building public awareness on matters of finance and investments was yesterday hosted by the First Citizens Investment Services. The seminar dealt with selection of appropriate sovereign investment, assessing the risk of sovereign investment, and procedures for investing in sovereign instruments. The seminar facilitator, Norland Gabriel, told the participants that in order to get big returns, they must be prepared to take big risk.
Some people can tolerate risk, Bill, but not everybody. So you need to determine as an investor where and what fits you and your circumstances. And those circumstances will be determined by a lot of factors, some of which will be age. The younger you are, you take more risk. You can start over to the time you're young, you have energy, you have time on your side, maybe money. But the older you are, and especially for people getting closer to retirement, you don't want to take risk at all.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is now one step closer to the establishment of an efficient biosafety management system. Earlier today, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment hosted a workshop at the National AIDS Secretariat building at Lago Heights, involving members of the National Steering Committee of the National Biosafety Project. The workshop was facilitated by Dr. Sylvester Lynch, coordinator of the named project, and Rohan MacDonald, a member of the National Steering Committee and biotechnologist at the Orange Hill Plant Tissue Culture Laboratory. The workshop was geared at preparing a working draft of a proposed biosafety administrative system and will be used for managing all activities related to genetically modified organisms, specifically handling applications, decision-making, follow-up and enforcement, as well as putting mechanisms in place to facilitate public awareness, public education and participation, and access to information. The 4th edition of the Luke's Kids Club gets underway next Wednesday, July 30th, under the theme Sports and Entrepreneurship. Head of the club, Luke Brown, told SVG-TV News that the summer program this year includes the development and acquisition of sporting skills in various disciplines.
It's come off of a couple of major sporting events right now. We have the Commonwealth Games going on, and we just saw the conclusion of the Football World Cup. And even if individuals are not interested in participating in competitive sports, I mean, it's just going to add years to your life and even life to your years if you're fit and you do regular exercise and whatnot. So we're going to look at that component. We're going to give the children who participate in the program the opportunity to develop their skills in different sporting disciplines, and we're going to have some experienced coaches. We are working together with the sports department in this respect. They're going to provide some resource people. We're going to have sessions with an Olympic gold medalist. According to plan, we're going to have local cricketer stars, we're going to have West Indian cricketers, some West Indian cricketers of yesteryear and some contemporary cricketers as well.
Brown also explained that the entrepreneurship component of the program was important in order to ensure that the nation's youths become enthused about becoming the future businessmen and women.
I think we need to think as a people of the ways in which we're going to encourage young ones to get involved in business, managing business, and not managing business in a selfish way, but genuinely looking to satisfy the needs that arise within our country, and to reap some profit as a result of doing that, and to have some focus and pay some attention to the whole matter of innovation and improvement, not only for their own business, but for our life, our national life.
Meanwhile, according to Brown, the club was started to address some of the socio-economic issues facing some of the nation's youths. Brown further explains that the club has been growing and there are aspects of the program that have exceeded expectations of the organizers. He adds, however, despite such positive growth, there are some areas which need additional work.
We have evolved quite considerably, and I must say that some of what has happened with the club we did not envision in the strict sense of the word when we were starting in 2011 back then. But you know, as in any organization, you meet new opportunities as you go along, you meet new challenges as you go along, and you just have to see how you could adapt and adjust, and you know, to take care of whatever it is and to take advantage of whatever opportunity you might have had.
Andrew Richards and Sheldon Bino, both of Victoria Village, have been arrested and charged jointly for possession of 6 rounds of .38 revolver ammunition on July 17, 2014 at Brighton. Both accused, with legal representation from lawyers Joseph Delves and Grant Connell, appeared at the Serious Offences Court on Monday, July 21st before District Magistrate Zola Ellis Brown and pleaded not guilty to the charge. They were admitted to bail in the sum of $15,000 each with one surety. They were also ordered to report to the Stubbs Police Station twice weekly until October 14, 2014, when the matter is expected to be heard.